Man, it's so boring being a steward, just sat here, nothing to do. I can't even turn around and watch the game. I've got to sit and look at Clements in row A. I do love a day at the cricket. Clements, this is clearly a football match. Like, you're right, I am more of a tennis man. I just want my moment in the spotlight, you know? Oh my day, is that a pitch invader? Never fear, I will save you all. I mean, you can take off the high-vis jacket, you know, but I just want to stand out, man. Yo guys, it is your boy Niran here, and you are watching FTW. This, of course, the series where I bring to the best and more frequently the worst of what football has to offer during the last 7 days. Shout out to the members like Polish Kuba, Harry Roberts, Idzan, Bonk, Eugene, Hopsky, Neutrino and co. You can get a shout out if you do the same, it's down below. But what's been kicking off in the world this week? Well, a hurricane has hit the US, Hurricane Milton to be precise, hitting the Florida area in a storm almost as bad as the one KSI's caused with his latest tune in the UK. From the screen to the ring. And obviously with those who were affected, and hopefully everybody's been able to get out of the area safely. It was a bad time to be a nation that has homes made out of sandpaper. Seriously, why do you guys do that? Build them with... It's a good job there aren't hurricanes in the UK, to be honest. Imagine the general public queuing to get to safety. Sorry, apologies. The Netherlands, a country known for windmills, flatness,
Thought Pancake Day was yesterday.
and obscene levels of baldness. For United fans, though, it's also a country of interest. No, not because you can blaze yourself into oblivion, but because it offers euthanasia. You've gotta fucking die! We're looking out for the well-being of people in Florida. Spare a thought for United fans. At least Florida's been interesting this week. United and Aston Villa played out perhaps one of the worst 0-0 draws in a while, as Erik Ten Hag's side continued their poor form. All that spending, defensively and across the entire board, only to still be playing Harry Maguire and Johnny Evans at the back. The Northern Irishman warming up his arthritic bones before kick-off. Rasmus Højlund genuinely had more of a chance of scoring in the Love Island Villa than against this one. Speaking of which, not a great day for siblings of Love Islanders either.
Who's Jordan again?
Bruno Fernandes was on bail after his back-to-back red cards and ready to re-offend. He was looking over at the bench to Erik Ten Hag, wondering whether he should snap Ezri Konsa's leg after 6 minutes to get the Dutchman out of the job. Augsburg were piling on to Manchester United over on Twitter. Do you know how bad you've got to be? It's a shithousery award for the Bundesliga side. The only interesting thing that happened here was a session of search and destroy at the end, with referee communications going down and a WWE briefcase being delivered. Other than that, Erik Ten Hag's gone on a holiday over the international break, seeming to think that his job is secure. Now is not the time, broski. I'm not gonna lie. He's gone to clear his mad-shaped head and will find himself locked out of Carrington upon return from the Maldives. To be honest, his job description already changed. He'd been relegated to being a ball boy late on in this one. And Domino's are looking to hire outside of Old Trafford, though they're not interested in Eric. Bro can't even get a job spreading mozzarella. And the dominoes of unemployment may well be starting to fall into place now. Because United right now, they're simply going round in circles. And that's just Anthony in the corridor.
Come here, Anthony.
The whole board turned up for this game, by the way, like it was a funeral. But seemingly, he is safe for now. Doesn't look like he's going to lose his job over the international break. And non-United fans will be delighted seeing this news. Fenerbahce may well be the team to get him sacked in the Europa League. Of course, where Jose Mourinho manages now. And if Fred scores the winner, I'll climax. I will, there and then. It will be a legendary hate watch. A bald manager in Turkey losing his job. Head loss, but at least hair gain. Think of this though, United fans. At least you didn't support Tottenham this week.
Top Spur? What's that?
Brighton were offering up crumbles to eat as a dessert at the Amex, and it turns out that wasn't the only crumble on offer. As Spurs were 2-0 up at half-time before history of the Tottenhaming it to lose 3-2. Falling apart 20 minutes after half-time is absolutely crazy, and it left Ange Postecoglou ready to put his head in an oven.
What happened, mate?
Tottenham decided to join the Everton Society, not only in terms of depression, but also throwing away 2-goal leads to lose 3-2, to which Curry's on Twitter reminded them of that. It's a shithousery award for them. I think Ange is starting to realise he can't physically unbottle these lot. It did start well though for Spurs. Brennan Johnson scoring yet again, a 6th game in a row. He's really become a different man since deleting Insta off his phone. But in the end, Brighton would make a comeback through Minte, Ruta, and then Danny Welbeck, who turned into the reincarnation of Pele. Man's the same age as Pele at this rate as well. How's he still scoring? They've been beaten by a peer here at Spurs, which is fitting because their peers are laughing.
Go chat to Brighton and Fulham and them, man.
Manchester City City weren't their usual selves, but did beat Fulham 3-2. The difference-making goal here coming from Jeremy Doku. But I tell you, it wasn't because of Haaland. Erling Haaland has not scored since he beefed Mikel Arteta after their game against Arsenal. And his new fantasy football price is getting out of hand, bro. How are they putting his price? It was already record-breaking during a cost of living crisis. He also produced perhaps the worst free kick of the season so far. Aesthetically, I'd never want to see him take a free kick again, just for the record. Manchester City, a totally different outfit when Rodri isn't playing, but at least a scran off the pitch is sensational. These steak chips, by God. Though to be fair, I've already been seeing too much steak on my Twitter timeline. Pep Guardiola took Adama Traore aside to offer him advice, seemingly after the full-time whistle, claiming that the Spaniard is completely unplayable most of the time. They'll be running him through the books at the club financially for the stress he caused their back line. He put Kyle Walker under more pressure than his 11th baby mum, though seemingly he's stressed out as well, because his hairline, kalas, his braids look like rope. That front taper's gone on holiday. His trim is in A&E, mate. The barber slipped on baby oil. That's the only explanation. Manchester City's director of football, who for the interest of being able to pronounce his name, I'm just gonna call Tsuzuki, is set to leave the club at the end of the season. Is this a sign that it's all over for City? Anyone who has an X as the second letter of their name cannot be trusted, to be fair. And he's going to be surprised seeing the club's former kitman down at the job centre next week.
Hello, fancy seeing you here.
However, apparently they still scored a seismic victory versus the Premier League in terms of their legal battle over supposed unfair sponsorship laws. Turns out they've been wrongfully denied 2 sponsorship deals during this season, and that might have an indication on how the 115 charges go. And with that, we deduct another 10 points from Everton. Chelsea, meanwhile, are back to not winning after a 1-1 draw versus Nottingham Forest. Cole Palmer got yet another goal contribution, assist for Noni Madueke here, and he produced a filthy touch before a shot on target here, diverting it around a Forest defender. It's not the only touch for Cole, though. He's also got a touch of autism. As there was scrapping going on between Chelsea and Forest players late on, he decided he couldn't be bothered with all that stuff and decided to lie on the floor. Lukewarm Palmer at best here. He was sat in his favourite chippy watching all this unfold. He doesn't understand adversity, guys. Yeah, you can't face him. No, genuinely, he doesn't actually know what adversity means, like, dictionarically. James Ward-Prowse was sent off here, and his second yellow card was one of the most ridiculous I think I've seen. Definitely deserved. But later on, the scoreline was kept the same by some sensational goalkeeping. Matt Sells and Robert Sanchez were going glove for glove. Vaseline for Vaseline. Elsewhere now, and Pog is back, probably to a pharmacist to get more performance enhancing. Paul Pogba's 4-year ban has been reduced after an appeal to 18 months, and he'll be able to train with Juventus once again from January onwards. His brother, devastated upon hearing the news. He must have got one of them Man City lawyers, because that decrease, that's less than 50% of what he was originally going to serve, is crazy. Let's be honest though, he's going straight to Marseille, guys. They've got a spot for him in central midfield. Roberto De Zerbi will be practically frothing at the mouth, seeing him and his brother have a criminal record. Back in the Premier League, Arsenal defeated Southampton. They left it a little bit late and got their fans' heart rates going after going 1-0 down, but in the end had those very same supporters going crazy over on Twitter. I'm sorry, how do you even know that Kai Havertz has scored with a television such as this? Leandro Trossard's binocular celebration, that's what he's using them for, bruv. To see that TV on the wall. How have you barely got a ticket to watch a game in your own home? That is an iPod Touch at best. Meanwhile, for Neto, Arsenal's backup goalkeeper, and the late drama didn't keep him awake on the touchline. Liverpool managed to beat Crystal Palace in the early kickoff 1-0. The Reds got the last laugh despite his Palace kid scoring a penalty against the mascot before kickoff and then shushing Liverpool's fans. We will have to go on from this point without a starting goalkeeper, as Alisson is injured again. He's got to be the most injury-prone keeper of all time. He's missed 50 games since 2020. You've barely got a move, boss. Bro's practically a civilian. His hamstrings give up the ghost anytime they face any slight inconvenience. He's out till after the international break in November, and the worst news here is there's another international break in November. Ollie Glasner was asked whether he was concerned about his club's form at the moment, but instead chose to focus his concern into other avenues, saying that why should he be concerned about football when he should be concerned about the growth of the right wing in Austrian politics.
Well, that's awful, but not.
What?
Well, it's not. It's not relevant, is it?
Ollie will leave Mark Gahey a little bit confused when the English centre-back asks how deep the defensive line should be. Now, I understand where you're coming from, Mark, but have you ever considered the depth, maybe, about the rush for Africa in the 1800s and how that's geopolitically affected the rest of European... As I mentioned a few times now, we are on an international break, and for England duty, Jude Bellingham was there to surprise Trent Alexander-Arnold for his 26th birthday. They're flirting before he goes to Real Madrid. I've seen this script before. This is what we tried to do last time. He is the king of get in there and make it about you. So best believe I'll be running in there and ripping up Jude's birthday card so that Trent doesn't go. The FA, meanwhile, are trying to rip up Lucas Paqueta's footballing contract as they are pushing to give him a lifetime ban based on potential betting infringements over the past couple of years. The FA want him gone.
I want this man to be no more.
They're fed up of him going into William Hill and slapping 49k on over 15 yellow cards. He's got to play badminton because he downloaded Bet365. That hardly seems fair. We got criminals actually playing, by the way, in the Premier League, but this is what we're focusing on. Okay, cool. Meanwhile, at Brentford versus Wolves, and the Bees were disgraceful in their punctuality, scoring after a lengthy 76 seconds here. One Wolves fan celebrated the fact that they survived the first minute, only to concede 16 seconds later. And I've got to say, shout out to Thomas Frank here, changing his tactics to avoid being found out and scoring in the second minute instead. An absolute masterclass. Speaking of Wolves now, and their youngster Matheus Mane has been named for both the England and Portugal's under-18 squad this week. Who's going to be playing 2 games at the same time?
Checkmate.
Dang.
Meanwhile, there were scary scenes for Axel Tuanzebe of Ipswich, who almost lost his thumb during a cooking incident this week. Yeah, he almost sliced it off with a knife, and that's how he ended up missing the game. Thankfully, paramedics were able to save his thumb, but that is crazy stuff. Get well soon, Axel. And it turns out Greece has been causing pain for England too, as Lee Carsley's 3 Lions lost 2-1 in the UEFA Nations League. This was our first loss to Greece ever in footballing history since the Greek god times. These lot have been about for ages. Not even Zeus beat us, but we start Phil Foden and now it's game over. Greek fans had banners and signs saying champions of Europe, you'll never sing that, and we won't if we continue to perform like this. It was genuinely a shocking display. Tactically, apparently we only trained the system that we used for 20 minutes in training, and to be honest, it looked like a lot less than that. Declan Rice looked completely different with no Kobbie Mainoo next to him. Meanwhile, Jordan Pickford, Jesus Christ, his performance during the first half was an absolute shambles. Bukayo Saka was on the losing side, hence brought out his trademark limp after the match ended. But in fairness, what a story for Greece. Again, as I said, the first time they've ever beaten England in an international football match, and obviously it was an extremely emotional event anyway. All of their players playing a match for the first time since the news of the unfortunate passing of their teammate and friend George Baldock. The former Sheffield United man was given a minute's silence before kickoff, and the result itself was a perfect tribute. For England, and a much better performance is needed in our next game during this international break. But it has been a good international break for some of the smaller nations, because Liechtenstein, who had just taken over the longest winless record from San Marino, defeated Hong Kong in a friendly this week. A Twitter account dedicated to the nation was tweeting about them winning for the first time since he'd created it. Meanwhile, Gibraltar also were victorious against San Marino. Now, in a week where 20 minutes into an international break, football Twitter was talking about which player had the biggest meat. It was Real Madrid players with BMWs. I
beg your pardon?
They were all pictured in front of German cars for, I think, a sponsorship deal, or like if you win man of the match or something. Hendricks, though, a little bit unconventional in comparison to his more modern teammates. On the team of Real Madrid shenanigans now, and Kylian Mbappe is getting aired by Dani Carvajal, and I'm not surprised the right back has been airing him, because he's not been that great this month, I'm not gonna lie. Guess the imposter out of this lot, ratings-wise, I'll tell you that for sure. He's looked completely different in his final form this time. But that didn't stop him from winning the club's player of the month. Literally, any other man deserved this. If Florentino Perez had been named it, I would have been less surprised. Meanwhile, for Dani Carvajal, and unfortunately his knee is in fact collapsed. He ended up picking up an ACL injury. Very unfortunate against Villarreal. Pretty gruesome as well. I wish him a speedy recovery. He doesn't seem to mind. He's already playing Black Ops. He's got his priorities straight. Gunning down 9-year-olds on a PC monitor over going to physio. Vinny Jr. took the opportunity to name him as the best right back ever. And in a time where his knee is already in liquid form, I fear lying to him seems unethical. Another great of the game has decided to hang up his boots though, and that's Andres Iniesta, who has retired officially now. Wishing him a happy retirement, as Real Madrid did as well, despite him of course being an El Clasico rival. Barca, I feel, wouldn't do this for Real. Well, they didn't with Toni Kroos. So maybe the reason Los Blancos did this is because he's been exposed as a secret Real Madrid fan from his younger days. The Barcelona faced off against Manchester City this week. No Barca fans, don't worry, you don't have to be too concerned. It's not the men's side. Barca's Femení were playing going, and well, they lost anyway in the Champions League 2-0 to Man City. Regardless of gender, Barcelona will let you down, and they will be in your overdraft whilst doing it. Barca Femení did at least take a massive victory in the league, though they were 1-0 down at half-time before coming back to win 8-1 in the second 45 minutes. Their team talk clearly worked wonders. Ladies, I will kidnap your families if you don't win this game. So, and for the men's side, Robert Lewandowski was on form too, scoring a 30-minute hat-trick.
Robert Lewandowski.
Paulo Gazzaniga was impressive for Girona this week, saving 3 penalties in 1 game. I don't even know a time where that's ever happened before in a 90 minutes. We're not talking a penalty shootout here. We're talking an actual game. And Girona then going on to win the game in the 99th minute, well, that is poetry. The shocking nature of these penalties, offensive, honestly. And that's not just Atleti fans remixing Paulo's surname. Meanwhile, there was wholesome stuff at Espanyol as they walked out onto the pitch from the tunnel, taking dogs that needed rehoming in the local area. And there was wholesome stuff for the Abajas brothers. One is a defender for Valencia and one is a goalkeeper for Leganes. Their 2 sides played against each other, and once they're a little bit older, you never know, these 2 twins could be going 1v1 at each other. Now in Germany, and Bayern Munich were held to a 3-3 draw by Eintracht Frankfurt. Omar Marmoush was the difference maker here with a late goal, 2 of them in total, and an assist, meaning he's got 12 goal contributions already. Definitely a star of the league right now. Frankfurt, they're training hard, seeing that Leverkusen have shut the bed this season and knowing that the Harry Kane curse needs to be continued. They're sponsored by Jobs Finding. Maybe they'll be finding a job for Erik Ten Hag. Harry Kane's gonna lose a trophy again to German sausage merchants. Meanwhile, Paul went out for Vincent Kompany. If that head of his gets stressed, it's an earthquake in the local area. Bayer Leverkusen, as I mentioned, dropped points to Holstein Kiel in a draw, and Dortmund lost to Union Berlin. Everybody has decided seemingly they ain't winning the league this year. Xabi Alonso's Ouija board needs servicing, and Dortmund, well, they're Dortmund. Victor Boniface scored though at least and did celebrate. He also had some profound words over on Twitter, saying if chickens have 2 legs, why do we drink cold water? I can only imagine thoughts like these are what happen in Darwin Núñez's head on a day-to-day basis. Brother, are you high? Meanwhile, in the Bundesliga's Vibe, there were unprecedented scenes, as a crazy double handball led to carnage in a game between Magdeburg and Greuther Fürth. First of all, Greuther Fürth's goalkeeper went to take a goal kick, passing it to his defender, who didn't realise the goal kick had actually been taken, so he decided to pick up the ball, giving away a penalty. That was converted on the rebound by Magdeburg, only for them to do the exact same thing later on, as one defender thought a free kick had been given, picked up the ball inside the area, and gave away a penalty, which Julian Green would stick into the back of the net. Absolutely fishy stuff going on here.
Match fixed.
Over in Italy, and Serie A stayed on brand with its Keep Racism graphic that appeared on the TV. Look, at least they're saying it with chest, to be honest with you. But Romelu Lukaku will feel a little bit hard done by seeing this one. In more shocking news, and David De Gea saved 2 penalties in 1 game for Fiorentina. This guy could barely even use a pen at United, let alone save one. Maybe the Red Devils are the problem after all. The alternate angle of his goalkeeping exploits during this game, though, leave you feeling a little bit sorry for the Spaniard.
He seems to be crawling away from the goal. What is he doing? He's throwing away the bat. Oh!
Yep, Tammy Abraham missed a pen against him, and Theo Hernandez also had a spot kick save, whilst Moise Keane also missed one for Fiorentina. Leonardo Bonucci will at least be happy seeing this news. Over at Napoli, and Scott McClutch managed to score after just 25 seconds versus Como FC in Serie A, and Napoli's announcer seems to be in love with him already.
Per la prima volta il nuovo maglia azzurra con il numero 8, Scotto! Scotto!
I wish he was in love with socks as much as he is with the Scotsman. Meanwhile, Como were clearly impressed by their hospitality at Napoli and by the fans, because they offered free beers to Napoli supporters. Napoli fans will be celebrating that. There was also reason for celebration in the David Neres household, as he scored against Como, then proposed to his partner after the game. Meanwhile, there were confusing scenes in the VAR room for Roma, as an official saw a foul from a Monza player, stating that the defender had stamped on his foot, but he didn't commit any sort of foul. Not really sure how those 2 events aren't mutually exclusive. Surely that is a foul. Now, France arrived on international duty in typical fashion, by doing a fashion shoot. Yet these lot are just doing it for social media engagement at this point. On the catwalk, that is French international duty though, and it was Ibrahima Konate who caught attention the most, turning up in a green outfit that covered his entire head. It's gone too far, lads, I'm not gonna lie. His vision walking through the door will have been somewhat impaired. One Marseille fan got married this week in a Marseille kit, and that might be the most criminal thing around that club this season. season, and that really is saying something. A set of PSG ultras, whilst bored waiting to go and play Arsenal in the Champions League last week, decided to go and support a local five-a-side team in London, setting off flares and giving them the full ultra treatment. We love to see it. Andy Carroll is continuing to win the hearts of the Bordeaux faithful. He scored again this week to make it 3 goals in 2 for the club. Meanwhile, there was wholesome stuff at Po FC as well, who after a game was called off, decided to hand over all the planned meals that they'd had for the game to the homeless and ask fans whether they had anyone in need that would benefit from the food. So shout out to them, lovely little gesture. Now that it's time for your goals of the week, we've got some more screamers for you. We start off in Spain, where at Real Sociedad, Luka Sucic has unleashed an effort on his left foot from outside of the area against Atletico Madrid. The screamers keep coming though over in India. A real pick this one out strike. If you don't buy a ticket, you do not win the raffle. Absolutely wonderful effort. And finally, check out this goal coming from an Indonesian footballer, a 41-year-old by the name of Nazir Bujang, who has clearly still got it with this free kick.
Hello all and welcome to The Beautiful Game, the segment where we take a look at the poetic and brilliant side of the game that we love. We are back by popular demand for yet more glorious beauty. And that concludes The Beautiful Game.
Over in America, and Lionel Messi's bodyguard has been tested again, running on to stop a kid from reaching the Inter Miami man. What happened behind the scenes afterwards, though, unacceptable from the bodyguard. As for Gareth Bale, he's had his game interrupted as well. This time, a game of golf. As a dog ran onto the course, the reaction from the crowd, electrifying. Well, as for Jose Mourinho, and he's been distracted by something else electrifying. He's checking out Gal. Jose Mourinho, listen, get your head back in the game, son. Now, there's been crazy scenes over in India, where a club from the nation have been kicked out of the AFC Champions League for failing to attend a game in Iran. Now, for context, going to Iran right now is a pretty dangerous thing to do. And games also, you know, involved in the AFC sort of circle, and Champions League games for Al Nassr, for example, have been moved to be played elsewhere already. So when they declined to play in Iran, the AFC Champions League kicked them out of the competition. Are we expecting them to take corners in an active war zone, lads? It's bold to do this, by the way, to a nation with 1 billion people. They could pick up and move Iran if they wanted to. This is a nation that mobilized to make T-Series the #1 channel on YouTube. They can do anything. Generally speaking, though, this is outrageous, especially when they've set a different precedent for other teams. Seems like a one rule for one, a different rule for another type situation. So I'm hoping they can get that overturned, because all they're doing is looking out for the actual safety of their own players. Now in Brazil, and there could be a massive turn on the cards for Memphis Depay, as he could have his contract terminated at Corinthians already. That's because one of his main sponsors has been involved in some controversy recently, and that sponsor basically pays for his contract at the club. So if they are removed as a sponsor by Corinthians, yeah, they won't be able to afford him anymore. Let's be honest, he's only there for the gal anyway. He doesn't care about playing football in Brazil.
Somebody. Sheesh. I see you work with something like you gotta...
In Argentina now, and we've got an absolutely outrageous challenge flying in just 2 minutes into a game. A ludicrous decision 2 minutes in, and wildly celebrated by the opposition. You can always count on South America for violence, no matter what the age. Because at Ecuador versus Argentina's under-15s, this game ended in a mass brawl. We got year 9 scrapping each other in South America, for fuck's sake. In the Netherlands, meanwhile, and Sparta Rotterdam were facing off against PSV, they scored, their goalkeeper was gassed about it, ran around and did a knee slide in front of PSV supporters, only for the goal to get disallowed and for him to get grief from the fans. Speaking of unhappy fans though, and at FC Eindhoven, also in the Netherlands, they're unhappy with a YouTuber that I'm sure you'll know. HITC7s recently did a video on how FC Eindhoven are one of the most boring teams in the world because they've remained in the same division for decades now. Well, after a 3-2 game, a 5-goal thriller, the fans had their say. Spare a thought for their opponents who'll be hearing about this result for the next 62 years whilst they stay in the same division. And in Austria, Red Bull Salzburg might genuinely be washed. Pep Linders took over there and he's struggling. I'm not gonna lie, they lost 4-0 to Brest in the Champions League and then 5-0 to Sturm Graz in Austria. Sturm Graz, of course, won the league, breaking Red Bull dominance last season, but is the farmification of the country finally over? Closer to home, and Leeds were denied a win against Sunderland late on, thanks to Ilian Melier for getting his job description. 97th minute winner to suit Joe Bellingham. him. In the Premier League too, and there was a crazy result down there between rivals as Brighton pumped Palace 10-0. Now, I know our youth team shouldn't be losing 10-0, okay? But think of the youth of South Sudan during the Sudanese civil war. One Sunderland fan thought he'd been baked a very special cake for his birthday this week, only to cut into it and realise that it was Newcastle coloured underneath. And Middlesbrough fans were excited to get on the road for a 3 p.m. kickoff, getting the drinks in at 5:58 a.m. This is the beautiful country we all know and not love, but we know it. It's there. Up in Scotland and at Livingston, they weren't too pleased by the extracurricular activities at Falkirk, calling their pre-game entertainment a pointless light show on Twitter. Meanwhile, at Uruguay, less passive aggression, more direct aggression between Nacional and Peñarol. In the stands now, we've got an impressive fan managing to balance a pint on his head whilst actually singing chants. Meanwhile, at Vasco da Gama in Brazil, a young fan created a miniature version of their stadium, the São Januário, for his school's crazy hair day, and it is about as crazy as hair can get on a day. In Cambodia, and this referee is gonna need actual security to get out of a stadium, because he's given a penalty here for a striker kicking the ball off his own arm. I mean, it is handball, to be fair, he's got that correct. That referee might be needed in West Africa, because in Ghana, this body slam hasn't been given as a penalty. Refs are just shit, aren't they? Let's not beat around the bush here. There's a wholesome story coming out of Algeria where one fan back in 2021 took a picture with his hero Islam Slimani. Fast forward 3 years and that same fan, and now a goalkeeper playing professional football, managed to save a penalty from his hero. Meanwhile, Claude Makelele has resigned as manager of Asteras Tripoli. Doesn't sound like too much of a crazy story till you realise he'd only played 3 games and had been unbeaten during his time. He cited the board getting too involved in footballing activities as his reason for leaving the club. His heat map as manager, pretty self-explanatory. Now that it's time for Still 0-0, you guys know the score by now. This is a segment of the show where I bring to the best of Sunday League and amateur football. Often, you know, when I talk about the best of Sunday League, I'm talking about, you know, some crazy goal, a mad bit of skill. This week, I'm talking about the best of the worst, because we have got a striker in on goal. He's looped it over the keeper and he has got the easiest task to get himself on the score sheet. Yeah, forget about it. These lot are lost scores. On to the weird stuff though now. Over in Asia, Thimphu City managed to bottle a 3-goal lead and lose 3-0 at the same time. Yeah, this is aside from Bhutan, and I don't even know how they managed to bottle it this badly, but they were 5-2 up going into the 90th minute. Had a chance to make it 6-2 with a one-on-one chance they then missed, then proceeded to concede 3 goals in extra time after the 93rd minute to end up drawing 5-5. Not only that though, it got worse because they accidentally broke rules in regards to foreign players, so they accidentally played 4 instead of 3, meaning the game was null and voided anyway. They got disqualified, forfeited, and lost the game 3-0 in the end. And finally, we're heading to Turkey. No surprise for the weirdest story of the week, because the nation, footballing-wise, is once again in turmoil after more controversy of an apparent sex tape being leaked between a 24-year-old referee and a 61-year-old observer for the Football Association. Both have been suspended for life, the referee being Elif Karlarsson, and the observer, I don't even know what that means, by the way. I don't know if that's a VAR official or somebody who's just involved in regulating referees. I'm getting lost in the weeds. That's not really the point in this situation. Elif insists she's not the person in the film and that it was made by AI. But either way, both have been banned for life. What the fuck is going on in Turkey? That, though, is going to wrap up football this week, and I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, then feel free to slap a like on the video and, of course, subscribe if you are new to the channel. You can also follow me on social media. It is at @theofficialfng on Twitter and on Insta. But it's been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.